If you've ever eaten a good scone, and I mean a good scone, then you know what a good scone should taste like. It should be very light, it should be flaky, it should be buttery, it should not be sweet, just a hint of sweetness, not cake like or not hard as a rock. That's what a perfect scone to me is. And this recipe is to make the perfect scone. Uh, that you'll ever have. It comes together very quickly, requires very few ingredients, just some flour, baking powder, heavy cream, and a little bit of sugar. And then the topping is extra. This is my pistachio-cherry scone, so I do have some pistachios in it and then some dried cherries. But you can use the same base and make a huge variety of scones. You can make a fresh fruit scone. You can just make a plain scone. Just add a little vanilla and make a plain scone. So you can make lots of different varieties of scone. But today I'm making a pistachio cherry scone. So come along as we make these beautiful, flaky, light scones. To make these scones, you need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon, yes, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and because these are pistachio cherry scones, I have about a 1/4 cup of ground pistachios with some big pistachio pieces in it. So that's the texture I want. So again, 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1/4 cup of pistachio, some ground and some left whole. I'm going to take all my dry ingredients and put it in this big bowl. Okay, normally I would also add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but because these pistachios are salted already, they're roasted and salted, I didn't add the additional salt. Also, the butter I'm using today, I don't have unsalted butter, so the butter I'm using today is also salted, so I decided to skip the salt that would normally go into the scone. Okay, so now we're ready for our wet ingredients. So let's see what they are. Before I add our heavy cream and butter, I also wanted to show you the cherries. These are dry, sweet cherries with absolutely nothing added. So they're unsulfured and no sugar added cherries. They're just pure dark cherries that are just dried. These are delicious. So if you can find cherries like these with nothing added, that would be really great for these scones. If not, then you can also use dried cranberries or regular dried cherries. But I highly recommend, if you can find these, to use these. So before adding the cream, I'm going to go ahead and add my cherries. And it is a lot of cherries. It was about a 3/4 cup of cherries. You don't have to add as many. You can add as much or as little as you want. I just like to have a bite of cherry with every bite of my scone. So I've added 3/4 cup of cherries. Okay, and also this dough or any scone dough requires as little handling as possible. So that's why I wanted to add all of this and then add my cream and butter, and then just with as little handling as possible, make the dough. Okay, I need 5 tablespoons of butter that I'm going to grate instead of cutting it into pieces. When you grate it and fold it into the flour, it creates these air pockets when it bakes and makes it a very nice and buttery scone. And I also have 1 cup of heavy cream. My butter was very cold, so I was able to grate it, and I wanted about this size of the grates. And now with my fingers, I'm going to put this butter in the flour mixture and gently fold everything in. So very gently, using my fingers, I'm working the butter into the dough, as well as the cherries are in the dough, and I'm mixing everything just very gently. Notice I have not added any liquid yet. I'm going to add the heavy cream once I've incorporated the butter well into the flour. So I've incorporated the butter nicely. You can see the butter has incorporated with the flour very beautifully. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my heavy cream. Okay, I've made a well in the center of the flour mixture, and I'm going to pour my heavy cream and then bring it all together using very gentle hands. Now this is completely optional, but if you have any oranges or lemons, you can add some zest of orange or lemon. And all you need is the orange. I have a mini orange, and then my zester. This is a very fine microplane. So I'm just going to take this, zest this very lightly so that no white part comes through, just the orange, and then add it to my cream mixture. So I have about 1 teaspoon of orange zest that I'm going to go ahead and add to the cream. I can't tell you how delicious right now the fragrance is. The smell is just unbelievable. It smells so good, right? So with the orange zest, and that's 1 cup of heavy cream, I'm going to, using my fingers again, gently bring the dough together. I like a nice thick scone, so I have shaped my dough into this nice long rectangle about 1 inch high. And now I'm going to cut into triangles. You can cut any shape you want. If you want circular scones, you can make this more into a square and using a cookie cutter or a biscuit cutter cut out circles. But I'm going to go ahead and make some triangles. And to make triangles, all I'm going to do with a sharp knife is go ahead and cut this and then keep cutting this. And it's kind of hard for me to film it with one hand, so I'm gonna stop filming, cut all the triangles, and then show you. But that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just going one at a time. And this should yield about 8 scones. This is not a low calorie recipe. These scones are delicious. But you're not going to be eating all of them. So also, you know, once in a while, if you're doing a high tea or just want a cup of coffee with scones or a cup of tea, these are just beautiful. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scones, and then 2 for sampling. I am preheating my oven to 400 degrees, and I've lined a baking tray with some parchment paper that I'm going to bake the scones in. Because of parchment paper, I don't have to worry about anything sticking, so it's a great thing to always have in hand. So I'm gonna take these scones, put them on the tray, and then as soon as the oven is ready, I will bake them. Okay, my scones look beautiful. Now you can bake these as is. You can also sprinkle some coarse sugar. But what I like to do is brush each scone with some heavy cream. So here I have about 1 tablespoon of heavy cream, and I'm going to use my pastry brush to brush it on top of the scones. Okay, so as you can see, I have brushed my scones with some heavy cream. Again, at this point, you can sprinkle some sugar if you like, but I don't want it to be too sweet. I don't like scones that taste like cake. You know, scones should not be cakey. If you want cake, you have cake. And these scones are not dry either, so they're not like stones. These scones are the perfect scones you'll ever taste because they are light, they're golden, they're crispy, not cake-like, and they're definitely not sweet. You saw that we only used 2 tablespoons of sugar for the entire recipe. So they're not sweet at all. They just have a hint of sweetness, and it's just so perfectly balanced flavor. So I'm going to bake these as is. Now, if you didn't want to bake all 8 scones at once, Before putting the glaze on, you could just freeze the dough. So I could have taken these triangles and just put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them. And then whenever I want a scone, a hot scone, I can just take it out, and you don't have to defrost or thaw or anything. You could just put it straight into the hot oven. But today I'm gonna go ahead and make all of them. But again, you don't have to bake everything at once because these do not last long. 2 days maximum once you bake them, because otherwise the texture changes and it won't taste as good. So you definitely want to use it up within 2 days. So if you think you're not going to eat them all, then please just freeze the rest. Make as much as you want, freeze the rest. I'm going to share these with family and friends, so that's why I'm baking all of them today. Okay, my oven has preheated at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And so now I put my scones in there, and I'm going to go ahead and bake it for about 17 minutes. But like I've said in my previous videos, don't use the timer for the oven. Use the regular timer. That way, if you need to bake more, the oven is not cold and the temperature stays consistent. So I'm gonna put my regular timer for 17 minutes, and then at that time check for doneness. Okay, the timer just went off. The scones have baked beautifully. I'm gonna take them off. So our scones have baked beautifully. I have my 8 scones plus the 2 small sample scones that were the end pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and plate them. You could also right now sprinkle powdered sugar on them, or you can even make a simple glaze of sugar and some kind of citrus and drizzle that over this. But I just love this scone as is, just a plain scone. It's buttery, it's light, it's very flaky. I'm gonna take one and break it apart and show you what it looks like inside. Here's my scone. When I broke it apart, it's light, buttery, um, nice golden brown up on top. And now let's see how it tastes. I just took a bite of this scone. It is so good. Mm. Oh my God. I plated my scone. The house smells amazing. My husband is very eager to try it, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this scone to him. So please make this scone. It comes together very quickly if you have all the ingredients. And again, the ingredients besides heavy cream, you usually should have on hand, because it's just flour and a little bit of sugar and baking powder. The heavy cream is something that if you don't have, you might need. That is a must ingredient for this. Also, as an add-in, you can add anything. You don't need the cherries. So if you don't have cherries, you can still make this delicious scone. So please give this scone a try. As always, if you like this recipe, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that when I put out a new recipe, you are notified. Please make these scones. They're really light, flaky, delicious, and you will absolutely love them. I guarantee it.